Okay, the executive branch.
Which page are we starting on? I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, what's a pocket? What page are we on?
It's
We are
when you don't really veto it, you just have, you don't confirm it or deny it, you just kind of
13.
keep it, like, you don't, you make, so Congress has to wait, and they can't do anything about it, so they can't override it or anything like that. I think Lincoln did that with something.
Okay, here we go. Executive branch, okay? This is your president, the vice president, and the cabinet, okay? The job of the executive branch is to what? Enforce laws, good. All right. The president is elected by the Electoral College, okay? There are 538 electors. This is where the 538 gets its name from. The website, those 538 are your 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate, and then 3 electors for Washington, D.C. So that is 538.
Wait, this is of the Electoral College?
That's the Electoral College, so that's how you get it. What's that?
So the Electoral College is 538
There are 538 electors. So what you need to do is in the election, you need to get 271. Is that what it is? Yeah.
But that is the Electoral College, is that?
So the Electoral College is that, right. So what happens is the Electoral College, the way it works, is that within the state, so what we're seeing in Iowa and New Hampshire, right, they are selecting who the electors should vote for. They are not bound to do so, but there is an expectation that the electors will select who the state chooses to be the candidate, okay? So what happens is that, and you vote. I just said it was in the primaries. That's different. That's to pick the presidency. So what you do is you vote, okay? So in Minnesota, what we would do is we would have the popular vote. The popular vote goes to Obama, and then those electors who have been chosen will then go to the Electoral College, and they will select the president based on who they have, okay? As we talked about before, it used to be that the president and the vice president were elected in a different way, right? And then we had the Adams-Jefferson presidency, which was a disaster, and so they switched that up. That was the 12th Amendment, okay? So, rules for the president. 4-year term, maximum of 2 terms. That is an amendment that we'll talk about tomorrow. You must be 35 years old. This is the oldest that you must be to be there, right? 25 in the House, 30 in the Senate, 35 for the president. Okay.
Is that also for vice president?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it is. Okay. You must have lived in the United States for 14 years. Okay. And you must be a United States born citizen. Okay? You must be native born. It is the only position that you must be a native born citizen. So this is where when Donald Trump was saying that Barack Obama is not American, he was born in Kenya, that would have made him illegal to be the president.
Was he actually born in Kenya?
No.
He was born in Hawaii.
I don't think so. He was born in Hawaii, right? I mean, in the same way that Donald Trump has accused Ted Cruz of not being a natural born citizen. So it's, you know, correct.
I think it's some great conspiracy.
There's, it's kind
Is
of
this for the
ridiculous.
president?
For the president and vice president.
So this is what this is about.
Correct. So this is the
So
executive
all
branch.
these same laws apply to the vice president.
Correct. Okay. Order of succession. Okay. If the president was to be killed, okay, the way it goes is it goes, you have the president, then you have the vice president, okay, You then have the Speaker of the House. You then have a position called the President pro tempore, which is a position in the Senate. All right. And then what you do is you then go to the Secretary of State. Okay. And then it goes down in the Secretaries of the Cabinet from the oldest position that we have in existence through the newest one. So the most recent addition to the Cabinet would, I would assume, be Homeland Security. I think that's the most recent one. So they would be the one farthest down the list. We've obviously never gotten past the oldest position, right? So Secretary of State's been there since the very beginning, right, when the Cabinet was created. So those 5 original positions that were in the Cabinet, those would be the 5. We've never gotten past Vice President, right? Hopefully we never will. Yeah.
What is the President pro tempore?
It is an elected position within the Senate. It is not the Senate leadership position.
So the Senate chooses it?
The Senate chooses it. Yeah. It's not. It is a position that, as far as I know, doesn't do anything in particularly unique within the Senate. Right? It's just.
He's just a guy.
He's just a guy, right? Or a girl. Stop being so sexist, right? So, where this comes into play, when the president gives the State of the Union address and everyone is there, you have somebody in the line of succession that is not present at the State of the Union address in case somebody was to drop a bomb on the Capitol and kill the entire government. You would have somebody in the line of succession that would be able to take over. Okay? So, kind of a scary thought as you think about that, right? When you become, if the president is killed or dies and the vice president takes over, right? That person selects a new vice president and then they slide into this spot. It's not like they have to go like down the list, right? If you are the vice president, you are number 2 in line. And we'll talk about how Gerald Ford is going to be the only president that never gets elected because he will replace Spiro Agnew, who was Nixon's vice president, and then when Nixon resigns, he will become president in that way.
What if, like, they all die? Like, the whole cabinet, the president pro tempore?
So that's the concept of that. That's why you have somebody at... So the idea is that, I mean, look, if somebody dropped a bomb on the State of the Union address, there would be a lot of issues that would be happening, right? If our whole government was just, was destroyed somehow. But the concept of keeping somebody out of there is why you're having it. So if we are under attack, for example, what you would do is, like on 9/11, Cheney and Bush flew on different planes, right? The idea is that you want to keep people separate, right? You don't want them all in the same spot where something could happen like that. Okay? Powers of the president. What does the president do? Okay? He can approve or veto laws. Okay? He makes treaties with foreign governments. Nominates judges.
Wait, does he create the treaties and then the Senate approves them?
Correct. I'll talk about that in 1 second. Yeah. He nominates judges. He appoints cabinet members. And he is he's the commander-in-chief of the United States military. Okay? He also creates the budget that we do. All of these things, there is a check on him, right? If he vetoes a law, who can override it? With
Senate.
2/3.
2/3 vote. Good. Makes treaties, who approves it? The
Senate.
Senate, good. Nominates judges, who approves it?
Senate.
Senate, good. Cabinet members, who approves it?
Senate.
Senate, okay. So these all are checked, okay?
What about the commander-in-chief?
Commander-in-chief, you are in charge of the military, but then you have your joint chiefs of staff, and you have the military that works with them. So in theory, they are, the way the president works at this point, he's not on the ground, so they are advising him, but he is
Makes a decision?
he makes the final decision, right? So, for example, when we went and captured Bin Laden, right? He was the one who said, we're going, right? He gives that call. If we're going to go drop a nuclear bomb on someone, in theory, he is the one that makes the call.
Are there balances with that?
With the military?
Like if he's like, I'm gonna drop a nuke, and everyone
No,
else is like,
that's one where, in theory, the military is checking the president because the president has to go through them.
Okay.
But he's the final say in that.
Okay.
So
Well,
if you're in a war, he makes that call.
but if Obama was like, let's drop a nuke on Russia right now, he couldn't, his heart was set on it.
In theory, he could do it.
No one could stop him.
Well, so that's where you have your military advisors that are going to say. So if he's like, we're going to go get Bin Laden,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's say Bin Laden is there. I want to go get him. Okay. If the military guys are on the room and saying, terrible idea, right? You would hope
He would.
that he would listen,
But
right?
it's not the code.
But he has the ability as the commander in chief. He's the head. It's the same way that if you look at like Brack, right? If Mr. Kim wants to do something, it could cost him his job, right? But he has the final say, right? If Obama goes and drops a nuclear weapon on the country, and the whole world thinks it's the worst thing he's ever done, he's going to face, issues that come out of that, right?
What about like executive orders? Who approves those?
Executive orders are a different piece. So that is a job that the president has on his own, but in theory, so where that has come in, so you guys know about executive orders being,
What's an executive?
so like for example, Obama wants to do all this gun control stuff, and the Congress won't pass any of these laws. So he's going to try to pass executive orders, which are basically, it's not a law. We're going to be able to hear that. That was Ben Turner. Who's doing that, right? So basically what that allows him to do is sort of it's like passing a law without passing a law. So in that situation, what you can do is if he passes an executive order, then the Congress can come back and pass a law that determines that executive order is against the law. Or the Supreme Court can come in, and say that the executive order is unconstitutional.
Wait, okay. So until Congress decides that it's against the law, is it then like if Obama passed something on like gun
Yep.
stuff,
Yep.
then would there like until Congress says no, that's not legal, would that still be?
Yeah, and someone could sue. It could go to courts, and there could be a injunction to stop it, right? But the process would move forward, and so that's where you see the majority of presidents use executive orders judiciously, right? You're not just throwing executive orders out left and right. They could, right? But you're gonna have to face the consequences if you do that. Okay. The president gives the State of the Union address every year. He does not have to give the State of the Union address every year, but because Washington did, it has become that. The State of the Union has changed over time. The only thing he has to do, as it says, is he shall from time to time give Congress information about what's happening in the government. Okay? That's really what it says. He can be impeached. Okay? The reasons that you can be impeached are three things: treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors. So
Can
really,
you say that again?
yep, treason, bribery, high crimes,
Was that like a felony?
and misdemeanors. Okay?
What's a misdemeanor?
It is a lesser illegal action.
Wait, so like, or if he had like public intoxication or like something like
He
that,
could
could he
get
get
impeached.
impeached?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That would be right. I mean, that kind of thing. Although the president never drives, so that'd be tricky, right? What you don't see is so we talk about Andrew Johnson, right? Remember, Johnson was impeached by the House and was found not guilty because it was a political difference that he was having with the Republicans, right? And so there's nothing illegal in there in terms of impeachment. So therefore, he does not get impeached for that. So you have to do one of those things, okay?
Like, say the president gets convicted of a high crime or a misdemeanor.
Yes.
Is that like an automatic impeachment, or does
No.
Okay, so like someone has
You have to go through the process.
Okay.
You have to go through the process. So if Obama went and shot somebody, okay, he would be. If Obama had shot Donald Trump, he would be charged with a crime, right? But then the impeachment process would go. It is likely that the impeachment process would move very quickly at that situation. I don't think there would be any argument over like,
But like, is it like an automatic thing like in the government, or does someone actually
the
have to take
House
steps
has
towards
the
that?
House has to charge you with impeachment.
So
But if that was to happen, right? If the president was to do something, like that, then the House would act swiftly.
okay.
They theoretically could do nothing.
Yeah.
Right,
Like-
exactly. In theory, they could, but then, so if they left that politically, right? If they said to themselves, "We're not going to do anything because you're a Democrat and we're a Democrat," then all of them would face re-election at some point, and it would be problematic for them, right? Yeah.
What would treason for the president look like?
Selling secrets to another country, secretly, trading. There's a lot of things that we could look at and say,
Sketchy stuff.
that's bad. That you could be doing. Like, I mean, people have accused Obama of being, all different kinds of things that are, that he's un-American, right? I mean,
You see that
that's
video of the woman at the John McCain thing? She's like,
right.
I heard Obama's in
Right.
Arab, and John McCain's like, no.
Correct.
He's
That's
like,
right. That's a good
I don't know where
example.
you got your information from.
Which is great that he said that, right? Which is great.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I-
okay,
Okay.
Executive branch.
Yes, I know.
that's it. Good with the executive branch? Yes. Any question with the executive branch? Okay, judicial branch.
What page is this on?
Judicial branch starting on page, what is that, 16, okay? Judicial branch. Supreme Court, federal courts, what is their job to do?
Decide the constitutionality of laws.
So, in other words, they interpret laws, okay? They interpret laws, okay?
Wait, what are they made up of again?
Supreme Court,
Federal-
federal courts.
16, all right? So, Supreme Court justices,
Wait, so is it Supreme and Federal Courts?
yeah. If you are nominated and you are put on the Supreme Court, you serve for life. Okay? The purpose of having them serve for life is that you have no political pressure on you once you are in that position. If you had to be reelected, then in theory what you're doing is you are deciding cases based on your politics as opposed to deciding on what you believe in. So what we end up seeing is that there are many examples where a conservative president will put someone on the court, or a liberal president will put someone on the court, and they will do the opposite of what was expected of them. Okay? So for example, if, let's say Ruth Bader Ginsburg retires this year, okay? And Obama then would obviously put someone on the court that he thought would be a liberal justice, right? Once that person got on the court, if they decided that actually they're a conservative, right? Then they would have the ability to do that without any threat of losing their job, right? So when John Roberts, Chief Justice, voted for Obamacare, many conservatives were like, "Whoa, that's not what you're supposed to do." But he is the safety of doing that. Okay, that is his ability. Okay, what they will do is they can declare laws unconstitutional.
Just the Supreme Court justice.
Yep. So the idea is that if a law is passed, what would happen is it would be sued in state court. It would move its way up to a federal court. It would move its way up to a Supreme Court. Federal courts and Supreme Courts do not have to take any cases. They can say no to any case they want. So, for example, with gay marriage that just got through into the Supreme Court, right? They chose that case. They very easily could have said, we don't want to deal with gay marriage this year, and then it would not have gone to the Supreme Court, right? They pick what they want to do, okay? They settle disputes. Among states. So if Minnesota and Wisconsin had an issue with one another, the federal court system would take care of that, okay? They also settle disputes amongst the United States and other countries, okay? And the Chief Justice, that's not how you spell chief, that's how you spell chief. He presides over the impeachment trials. So, as you see, the impeachment process involves all branches of government, right? It would have the House that impeaches, the Senate tries it, and the Chief Justice is responsible. There is only one law there is only one crime that is specifically listed in the Constitution, and that crime is treason. Treason is the only one that is listed. The concept of treason is that you are going against your country, right? Cannot do that.
Wait, does preside mean like supervises?
Yeah.
Pretty bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, not gonna
Wait, so this goes.
like your decision is self-secret.
No, but it's the only, so as the judicial branch is focusing on laws, right? That is the one thing. It also states that if you commit treason, that you will only be the one that is punished. So if I was to commit treason, it would not impact my parents, it would not impact my children, right? It is a crime that is only affects you
that
as
one's
an individual.
Not determined by the court.
What? Treason is the only crime that is listed within the Constitution. So that tells you that from an American perspective, is the most significant crime.
Well, I know,
In the
but
eyes
so
of the
then if
Constitution.
that's already like, okay, that's a crime, then that doesn't have to be determined by the court. It's like if you say, so like,
Right.
what if you
This-
crime in the
It is
Constitution?
just simply saying that this is the most significant crime in the United States, right? The judicial branch, other things that come out of this, states must respect the laws in other states. So if a new state is admitted, it must have the same rights as every other state that comes in. Okay. Federal supremacy, which we talked about yesterday. Okay. The concept that the Supreme Court federal courts trump state courts in terms of laws. Okay. And the last piece that comes into this that we'll talk about today are amendments.
Can you say the thing about the states must respect laws? And
Yeah, so if you have a law in one state, the other states must, they can't say that a state law in one state is illegal in your state. Okay? Yeah.
So like, if someone got married in or like if someone got married to like a same-sex partner in California, they moved to Arizona, they couldn't say you're not married.
You could say we as a state don't acknowledge your marriage, but they cannot say you are not married in California.
Okay.
Right? So that's why people would go, before gay marriage was legal, people would go to Iowa from Minnesota to get married because you could get married in Iowa there before you get married here. So they would say that they're, what's that? So, that's kind of the go. So if you have let's say you have the ability to possess a gun in, so if you are in Colorado and you're smoking marijuana, okay, and then you go to Wyoming, all right, you cannot be charged with the crime of smoking marijuana when you were in Colorado. You could be charged with the crime if you brought marijuana into Wyoming, which is illegal there, but you cannot
so
be.
it's like the laws can't cross boundary lines.
You have to respect the law of a different state. You cannot say that it is illegal. You cannot say, because it is legal there but not legal here, we will arrest you here for what you did
Okay.
there. Okay?
What is the order of the courts again? Supreme Court, then what?
It goes state, federal, supreme.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to save the amendment process till tomorrow, and we'll talk about all the amendments at that point.
So technically, you could have like marijuana in your car in one state.
Yep.
And then drive over the border to Colorado.
And get it right.
Then you have to throw it up.
Wait,
no.
No, so I'm gonna stop this here, and
And then you could
Stop this.